don't know anyone inside or outside this building who claims that it does. As my colleague from Southern Oregon just pointed out, this bill in itself will not provide a single new unit of additional housing. That's a fact. A solution will take major expansion of the supply of affordable units across our state, with local governments and community groups as our partners. Bills with that central goal will be coming to this floor, and if we get them right, they'll make a critical difference in the medium and longer term. Especially appreciate some of the comments of the senator from Central Oregon and his experience. I think his wisdom might help us get them right. This bill is about the near term. It's about easing what can plainly and fairly be called a humanitarian crisis that is spread across our state, including the metro area and the suburbs, small and medium towns in my districts, farm and ranching communities. Anyone who thinks that's hyperventilating would do well to spend time with some of the tens of thousands of Oregonians, many of them working full-time or more, harder, I suspect, than most of us in this building do, who've lost their housing, or who may soon, or who are coping with housing conditions very few of us could tolerate. They should talk to school teachers about the growing number of young children coming to school exhausted, unfed, unfocused, terrified, and about the impossibility of teaching and learning when some of these kids start attacking other children or throwing chairs and books around the classroom. They should talk to substance abuse and suicide prevention experts about the impact on our communities and the demand for social services when people become so hopeless and ashamed of their failure that they decide they have nothing left to lose. That's why I voted for this bill without giving much consideration to proposed amendments. There has been no shortage of proposed amendments and revisions and negotiations on this issue in this building in recent years. Everything but completed legislation. I can stand behind my vote for an imperfect law. What I'm not willing to do is to return to the Rogue Valley this summer to tell a growing number of people with lives ruined by housing insecurity, well, we almost got there, but in trying to adjust to all the concerns, we couldn't quite close the deal. Maybe next session. In the meantime, hang in there and good luck. We can't do that again. More than a few small-scale landlords have written us or testified on this bill. Maybe because I'm one myself, I understood what they're saying. I understand how the experience of an extraordinarily devious or unprincipled tenant has them opposed to curtailing no-cause evictions, and why many of them believe that pretty much every eviction does have a cause. I understand that some of them feel demonized as heartless, endlessly greedy profiteers when they see themselves as fair people providing a vital service for a modest profit. Landlords who've never come close to increasing their rent 7% each year. That fairly describes many, many Oregon landlords. I know many of them. I like to think it describes me. So I am truly interested in proposals that have potential to address their concerns without weakening tenant protection after this bill becomes law. When the protections of Senate Bill 608 are Oregon's status quo, replacing today's status quo, which is essentially, sorry, Oregon renters, you're on your own in this crisis. Then I'm ready to talk about how landlord-tenant law can be better. First, though, let's put this solid stake in the ground. You know, I bring to this issue the perspective of someone who served in this chamber for less than a month. And from that rookie perspective, I'd like to put this large issue into an even larger context. And if you decide that the next couple of minutes sound like a pure rookie perspective, disconnected from how this building and the world really works, I'll just say it won't be the first time I've heard that. During last year's campaign, I was invited, as I imagine all of us are, to visit with professional groups that are serious stakeholders in this issue. Each wanted me to understand that they didn't cause this problem and they shouldn't bear the burden of solving it. One way or another, most of them asked essentially this question: if you get to Salem, what will you do to make sure we don't get dinged? That's a central question of today's politics. We're now wired for it. What I came to tell them in return is this: when you look at the human toll that homelessness and miserable and uncertain housing is taking on Oregon, when you understand at a gut level how hard it becomes to sustain a self-sufficient, responsible life when you don't have a stable home, when you think carefully about the cluster of social problems this crisis is breeding or amplifying, and how readily they could drag Oregon into bankruptcy, then with respect, how you keep us from getting dinged is the wrong question. The question that all of us have to be asking if we expect to climb out of this deep hole or others in which we find ourselves is this: what can I bring to the table? How much, consistent with sustaining a viable business and with protecting my family's health and safety and basic quality of life, can I bring to the table to solve this problem? A problem that might not affect me directly now, but left to fester will clearly make my children's lives more difficult and more costly down the road. What can I bring to the table? This is not just a question for the business community. It's the right question for all of us who enjoy a certain level of material advantage and comfort. One example: a key component of boosting housing supply will be increasing residential density in some of our neighborhoods. I'm actually not thrilled by the prospect of new multi-unit construction in my immediate neighborhood. I tend to think I have enough neighbors now. So if my neighbors come to me to invite me to enjoy a NIMBY presentation to our local planning commission, will I remember to ask myself, what can I bring to the table to solve the housing crisis? I hope so. I really hope so. What I am talking about here is a new and distinctive kind of Oregon patriotism, and I believe it can be something other than sacrifice. I want to suggest the possibility that we in Oregon could answer a call of the times in a way that's richer and more personally satisfying than what we've settled for in recent years. I understand how different a way of thinking this is. On this floor, in this chamber, it might well sound like kumbaya. If it does, let me ask you this. Looking down the road, can you see a through path to solving our housing challenge, or our mental health or education or climate or family wage job challenges without changing the way we've been thinking about them? What can I bring to the table? It could be that kumbaya is underrated.